In the quiet town of Oak Ridge, nestled deep in the rolling hills of Virginia, life moved at a steady, unhurried pace. The sun rose slowly each morning, casting a golden glow over the fields and the old military base on the outskirts. That base, Fort Harlan, had stood for decades, a place where soldiers trained under the watchful eyes of their superiors. It was a world of order, discipline, and unspoken rules. Emily Carter, a young sergeant in her late 20s, had called it home for the past 5 years. She was known for her quiet strength, her steady hands during drills, and the way she always helped the new recruits find their footing. Emily had grown up in a small family farm nearby, where the air smelled of fresh earth and pine. Her father had been a veteran, telling stories of honor and sacrifice around the dinner table. When he passed away too young from an illness, Emily joined the army to honor his memory. She wasn't loud or showy. She preferred the calm rhythm of Virginia morning runs through the misty woods, evenings spent reading by lamplight in her barracks. But lately, a shadow had fallen over her days. Whispers spread like fog through the base, accusations of leaking sensitive information to outsiders. Emily knew they weren't true, but proof was hard to come by in a place where trust was everything. One crisp autumn morning, as leaves drifted lazily from the trees, Emily was summoned to the central parade ground. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke from distant chimneys. Soldiers gathered in neat rows, their boots polished, faces stern under the overcast sky. General Harlan stood at the front, a tall man in his 50s with silver hair and a gaze that could cut through steel. He had commanded Fort Harlan for years, earning respect through fair but firm leadership. His own life had been marked by loss. His daughter, Amelia, had vanished during a family trip 20 years ago, presumed lost in a tragic accident. He rarely spoke of it, but it lingered in the lines around his eyes. Emily walked forward, her heart beating steadily, though a knot of worry tightened in her chest. She stood at attention, saluting sharply. The general's voice boomed across the ground, steady and measured. "Sergeant Carter, you stand accused of treason. Evidence suggests you've compromised our operations." He paused, letting the words hang in the air like the morning mist. Emily met his eyes, her voice calm. "Sir, I swear it's not me. I've served loyally." But the evidence, a series of anonymous tips and mismatched logs, pointed her way. In the army, justice was swift to maintain order. The relatable problem unfolded slowly, like a river winding through the valley. Emily had always felt a bit out of place, not because she lacked skill, but because she carried secrets from her past. Adopted as a child after being found wandering near a crashed car, she had no memory of her early years. Her adoptive parents had been kind, raising her with love on that farm. But now, this accusation threatened everything. It started small, a missing file here, a whispered conversation there. Colleagues she trusted began to avoid her gaze. Meals in the mess hall grew lonely, the clink of forks echoing in the silence. Emily spent nights staring at the ceiling, wondering how to prove her innocence. She confided in her closest friend, Private Jenkins, a lanky kid from Texas who always had a joke ready. "It's gotta be a mix-up," he'd say, patting her shoulder. But deep down, Emily feared it was more a setup, perhaps, by someone with a grudge. As the investigation dragged on, the base buzzed with tension. Drills felt heavier, the air thicker with suspicion. Emily's problem was one many could relate to: being in the wrong place at the wrong time, fighting shadows you couldn't see. She reviewed logs in the dim light of the records room, her fingers tracing lines of text. Nothing added up. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, painting the sky in soft oranges, she sat on a bench outside, watching fireflies dance. "Why me?" she whispered to the wind. It was a gentle ache, not dramatic, but like the quiet struggle of holding on when the world pulls away. The day of the hearing arrived under a sky heavy with clouds. The parade ground filled with soldiers, their uniforms crisp against the green grass. General Harlan presided, his face impassive. Emily was led to the center, hands unbound but spirit weighed down. The charges were read aloud, each word falling like a stone. "For the security of this base," the general declared, "we must strip you of your rank and uniform." Publicly, as a lesson. Emily's breath caught. It was an old tradition, rarely used, meant to humiliate and deter. She nodded slowly, accepting the inevitable. The soldiers formed a circle, silent witnesses. 2 officers stepped forward, their movements deliberate. Emily stood tall, chin up, as they began. First, the jacket buttons undone one by one, the fabric sliding off her shoulders with a soft rustle. The cool air brushed her skin, raising goosebumps. She focused on the distant trees, their leaves whispering in the breeze. Next, the shirt, tugged free inch by inch. Whispers rippled through the crowd, but Emily remained composed, her mind drifting to childhood memories of running through fields, free and unburdened. The process was slow, almost ritualistic, each layer removed with care to prolong the moment. Finally, her back was exposed, the uniform pulled at her feet, and then, the general froze. His eyes locked on the tattoo etched across her shoulder blade, a delicate design of a compass rose intertwined with a blooming lily. It was faded but clear, inked in deep blue. Time seemed to stretch, the world holding its breath. General Harlan's face paled, his hand trembling slightly as he raised it. "Stop," he commanded, voice barely above a whisper. The officers halted, confusion etching their features. He stepped closer, his boots crunching on the gravel. Emily turned her head slightly, sensing the shift. "What is it, sir?" she asked softly. The gentle twist unfolded like dawn breaking over the hills. The general's voice cracked as he spoke. "That tattoo, I know it." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a worn photograph. It showed a young girl, no more than 5, laughing in a garden. On her tiny arm, a temporary sticker of the same designa, a compass and lily, a family symbol. "My daughter, Amelia," he explained, his words measured for the stunned crowd. "She had one just like this drawn on her the day she disappeared. We were on a trip, the car crashed. We thought she was gone forever." Emily's eyes widened, a flood of fragmented memories surfacing like bubbles in a stream. The crash, the screech of metal, the smell of rain-soaked earth, being found, scared and alone. I don't remember much," she murmured, "but my adoptive parents said I had this tattoo when they took me in. They thought it was just a kid's drawing that stuck." The general studied her face, seeing echoes of his late wife in her features, the same green eyes, the gentle curve of her smile. Tests would confirm it later, but in that moment, intuition bridged the gap. The atmosphere thickened with emotion, the air heavy with unspoken regrets and newfound hope. Soldiers shifted, murmuring softly. General Harlan composed himself, signaling for a blanket to cover Emily. "This changes everything," he said, voice steadying. Investigations would reveal the true culprit, a jealous rival who had framed her, planting evidence in haste. But for now, the focus shifted to healing. Emily was led away gently, not as a prisoner, but as family rediscovered. In the days that followed, the bass returned to its rhythm, but with a softer edge. Emily and the general and now Harlan to hear spent evenings talking in his office, the room lit by a single lamp. He shared stories of Amelia's childhood, of picnics and bedtime tales. Emily recounted her life on the farm, the quiet joys and hidden pains. "I always felt like something was missing," she admitted one night, as rain pattered against the window. Harlan nodded, tears glistening. "You were. And now, you're home." The satisfying ending came gradually, like seasons changing. Emily was cleared of all charges, her uniform restored with honors. She chose to stay at Fort Harlan, rising through the ranks with renewed purpose. Harlan retired soon after, but not before walking her down the aisle at her wedding to Jenkins, who had stood by her side. They built a home near the base, where laughter filled the air once more. On quiet evenings, Emily would trace her tattoo, a reminder of loss turned to reunion. Life moved on, slow and sure, in the hills of Virginia where roots run deep, and second chances bloom like lilies in spring.